They're not going away very long. For any of you that don't know me, I'm Bob Lobdell, and I've been blessed to be the chairperson of this event and have a great committee. This is why Lewis & Clark is what Lewis & Clark's about. Quality of the music, dedication, people want to come back and share. Let's give one more round of applause. Thank you. What I would like to do on this history thing is, many of you probably heard a lot of my historical presentations. Bill Anderson. Well, get up here and try to yell into the microphone. Bill Anderson and I started these historical information tours back in 1972 because we wanted to make sure every student understood the significance and history of Lewis & Clark High School. And we think it's really made a difference. We're one of the few schools that I am aware of that at a lot of the reunions, the kids, you know, that I've done some 60 to 65 year reunions, that the kids come back. And a lot of schools, the kids don't want to go back to school. They just want to meet with their, you know, colleagues and have a good time. And that's wonderful. This is just a tradition that Lewis & Clark has always been blessed to have. And it's, you know, as you can see, I've had some phone calls this week that have just been really heartwarming. I had a gentleman call and says, I hope you didn't change the building too much because I haven't been back for 71 years. And I thought, boy, come on in. And the building hasn't changed, you know, actually physically, most of you know it has changed a lot. We don't have toilets that leak, ceilings that leak. The building is an absolutely beautiful building. When it first opened, we had people, it was so interesting that people from around the United States would come, school boards, and colleges came to look at our library. If you haven't seen the new library, it is a marvel. Every room basically has probably a minimum of 15 computers, and then we have so many computer labs that, and so it's very well updated. It would be a nightmare if I were a tech to say, you know, just I can run a computer, but most of the time it runs me. Most of you are probably in that same boat unless you're really intelligent. I'm type of does when my computer turns on and stays on. But if you go around and look at the different trophy cases, we tried to display as many things as we could. It's impossible because the archives are one of the projects I had before I retired in 03, 04, and 05. I like teaching so much I retired 3 times. That we organized the archives, and it's amazing what we have. We have things from South Central High School, and we have letters, we have yearbooks that have been donated, obviously. We don't have a lot of yearbooks. There's a lot of yearbooks for sale out there. There's just some years that they don't have any, like I think from roughly the 60s through the early 70s. But Lewis & Clark has graduated a lot of people. I think we're in the close to 50,000 people, or more. And we've been, you know, I'm not going to give you too much information because I don't want you to go to sleep during my real speech or principles. Can't hear? Oh. I like my whisper better. All right. Obviously, the building, if I recall, that we all attended was built for a terribly high figure. I think it was $650,000 back in 1911 and 1912. The remodel in 1999 and 2001 was just a mere $51 million. Thank goodness we had matching funds because we are one of the few in Spokane that can say we are on the historic register. And we're on the historic register for a lot of reasons. One, the building. And secondly, the community. We have I feel we've always had the best students. Had to, I graduated from here. Academically, I can't speak to when I was a student. I knew where the library was after I taught here for 2 years. But, you know, just the makeup of the student body. We have great parental support. And I think everybody here, you know, can say that one of the things that that really, I think, has been tremendously interesting is the cultural and equity that we have seen over the years that we grew up with. You know, we couldn't understand some of the problems because we were blessed to have the cultural diversity here at Lewis and Clark from the beginning. And so, and it's still, our leadership groups, I was trying to find one of the more recent plans, and the most recent one I could find was about 2005. 4 different times the governor's office recognized Lewis and Clark's cultural group as the outstanding leadership group in the state of Washington. And to show you how good they were at mediation and stuff, Boeing and some of the other industries took those kids and had them meet with their supervisors to have people understand how to deal with people of color and everybody. So we're so proud of everything that we've accomplished. You're here, obviously. We did something, well, not we, so most of you are my classmates or thereabout. Lewis and Clark has done something really special to make people want to keep coming back. Every year, I probably put on 5 or 6 of these information things at the class reunions. And I kid some of my family that teach at some of the other entertainment centers around town. And they don't have kids that go into the building. They don't have kids that really share the interest in the building like you people do. A quote you'll hear later that I can't get around is, we don't have to talk about history here at Lewis and Clark or traditions here at Lewis and Clark. When you walk in these halls, you're walking in that history and sharing what people have done here for 100 years. And you know, when you talk about people on whether it's academics or athletics, especially if you played for any of the legendary coaches, I tell people I was blessed a long time ago to play for Squinty Hunter. I was the captain of his last team in '64. We had a special recognition for him in 1975 after he retired. I sat with the captain of the 1924 basketball team. 40 years difference. Yet when we started talking what went on in practice, nothing changed. And I thought it was really amazing. It was fascinating to find out. And it wasn't just basketball, it's the life lessons that people have learned, not only through the coaching people here, but also the teachers have set, I think, a very, very fine example, teaching what life is supposed to be and how to respect each other and share that knowledge and wealth. Now that my sermon is over, I would like to open it up to questions. I will answer, Bill and I used to say we'll answer every question if we have a really good answer. If not, we'll probably lie to you. If I don't know, I'll tell you, because especially when you ask about former staff members and so on, we're going to be fortunate to have several of those staff members that you had, basically from the 40s through me, and hopefully a lot of the new staff will be here to share this momentous day. So if you have questions about the building, about the remodel, don't ask where my old homeroom is, because those numbers have changed again. The school district came up with a great idea when I first came back in the fall of '70. They changed the numbers. And I thought, God, I was never good at math to start with. They changed them. Then they changed them again for some reason, and then with the remodel, they had to change them again. So if you say, well, where is homeroom 204? Close your eyes and have a moment of silence, and it's not there. And I don't know where it is. It's close up there someplace. Some of the rooms are gone. My old room 122, for some of my students that are here. They must not have thought much of me. They did away with it, and they combined it into something else. And it's not even as close to the same numbers. So if you're looking for your locker, moment of silence, those are gone. They're half lockers now. But the most brilliant thing that they did with the lockers, remember when you walk into homeroom, here's your padlock. Where's my locker? I don't have a clue as your homeroom teacher. Here's your number, and here's your padlock. Now, when you walk down the halls, you'll see on this side, well, on all sides, but this being the west side, there will be a 1 first floor.
a W, West Side, and then a number. Now, if you can't find the locker then, transfer. That's all I can say. But most students do not really care about lockers. They wear backpacks. You'll see some of them walking down the halls like this, but they carry backpacks every place they go. I don't think it's because they're worried about things being stolen. It's just a thing. You know, you're not cool if you go to your locker between classes. All right, questions? Yes? Okay. I almost got fired over those windows. When I first came, they were covered, the windows were covered during World War II because no public building could have light escape because at night especially, because of the possibility of a Pacific attack. So they were covered over with tiles. Well, so when I took over the stage crew back in 70, I guess it was, I went to a school board meeting and I said, the war's over. I know the history teachers will be upset about that, but it is. Can we uncover these? And sometimes, I really adopted the motto in my later years that make sure your brain is in gear before your mouth is in motion. Well, I asked the assistant superintendent at the time, I said, why can't we uncover those windows? Well, it's a safety issue. And I said, for what? And he says, well, the windows might, if we take those tiles down, those windows might fall in. Well, being a young teacher, not very smart, challenging assistant superintendent, I said, well, then why in the hell haven't they fallen out? I had a meeting the next day after school, and I had a full explanation of why they weren't uncovered. And don't ask again. Well, so that was one of the big goals of the remodel, is to uncover the windows. The pipe organ that was played by two former Lewis, everything today basically is Lewis and Clark students, guest speakers, and so on. The pipe organ is we're still one of 3 high schools left in the United States that has a pipe organ. We had some terrible damage to it back in the 70s, but we were able to, a student at Whitworth College was doing a master's in music, and his grandfather happened to be one of the last people that made parts by hand for pipe organs. And they came out, fixed it. We had a rededication ceremony for that. And obviously it was a beautiful contribution to today's program. I know when I was a student here, people say, why did you just say you went to Lewis and Clark because you were never a student? That in the mornings from 6:30 until 7:45, students would be able to come in and play the pipe organ. My mom graduated from here in 1927. She said she got to school early just to listen to people play. So it's a real tradition. Unfortunately, it hasn't been used all that much. But you ought to hear Phantom of the Opera when somebody plays that. It is unbelievable. It'll bring you out of your chair. Yes? I can't answer whether it is online, but there is a complete list of all the artwork that a couple of the teachers put together years ago. And it is, I know one copy, we always put something in the archives, that's why it is really full. And I'm sure there's one in the office. Now, I can ask later and find out whether or not Peggy. Okay, Peggy Herbert, one of our wonderful teachers that, orange and black, she has no other colors. Good head. All right, she said Teresa Myers is one of our wonderful assistant principals. You can look it up online on lctigers.com. I don't think it's on SpokaneSchools.org. lctigers.com. And if that's not, you can't find it, call 354-7000 and ask whoever answers the phone, because I don't know whose line that is, but I know it's a number because I call it all the time. Should be the head secretary. Tell her Bob called, told you to call. Other questions? Yes? There is, but it is such a small... The question is there a location where we have all the yearbooks from all the different years that you can go see? Yes, there is a location. Yes, there are a lot of yearbooks, but it is about the size of there's two room closets back to back. We have yearbooks going back to 1891. We have until, I think it started with Lewis and Clark, we had two graduations a year, January and June. And we've got those till they quit. So we have every yearbook, at least one copy, because we're blessed that people from South Central, the relatives of South Central all of a sudden come across a yearbook, whose is this, and then give it to the school, and some of the early years. So I would say yes. They're available, not as a group, because probably a row could get in that room at a time. If you are interested in doing that, you could call that 3x4-7000, schedule an appointment, and I'm sure someone would take you up there, because they're your property. Peggy said they were going to scan. See, I've been retired since 03. She's a new retired. I'm sorry. Supposedly they're going to scan them, and they should all be online. How long that's going to take, I don't know, because this vice principal is so good, but there's only so much time. So I hope that answers your question. Other questions?
How many students do they graduate a year
I would guess from approximately 400 to 350 to 450. The largest class still, God, I hate to have to concede this, 1965. Well, I didn't know we had that many 65 fans. I do have to say that's one of the few times that I don't mind being number 2, 1964. We were more academic. There was less of us. We were quality, not quantity. Still love you. I shouldn't talk academics, should I? Other questions? If I recall the exact number, 932, but I think we were 736. Amen, she says. That's the most math I've done in ages. Other questions? Yes? I think they quit. Why did they, or when did they quit? Well, probably, I would say some people work faster, and people, and that's not a put down to anybody. They were on a type of thing, if you've got the credits, you can graduate early. And then some people had to go to work, some went to war. And if any of you have not had the time to see the war memorials yet, when you come in the front steps, World War I and World War II are all the Lewis and Clark. The beautiful thing about Lewis and Clark, we've not only served our community, we've served our country beautifully, and the ones out there didn't come home. Okay, all right. Okay. The question was about, I didn't elaborate, but the first question was about how many did they graduate? Approximately, I'd say 350 to 450 or more. The student body has stayed probably approximately 1,800 to 2,000, 2,100. I know several years ago when they were still, the district was playing with district or with the boundaries, we went down to as low as 800, and so I know a family that I coached a lot of the kids, coached half the kids because they lived right by Hart Field. Half the kids went to Ferris, went to Lewis and Clark, went to Ferris. And so, you know, a family of 5, you could have 3 and 2, you know, because of the boundary changes. But we've pretty much stayed the same for a long time. Other questions? Hopefully you'll see, yes? It's being used right now. It's a support system for the new part of the building. Now, this was, and I can't document this, but I was told by a very, very good authority, the reason Lewis and Clark's, well, I won't tell you all those stories because we use those for humor, but the question was, when was the last time the swimming pool was used? Seems to me it would have been late 30s or so. They did a survey, from what I was told, they did a survey to see whether North Central's pool was used more than Lewis and Clark's. Well, it was significant. Why? Who knows? So the district had used the same plumber for both jobs, and when the pump and filter system went out at North Central, this is where rational, but they closed ours, took our pump and filter system out, put it in North Central's, and hasn't been used since. In a way it has been, because the last several years, when I was here before the remodel, we had some very creative teachers. If you've ever been down in that swimming pool on one of my tours and I forgot to turn the light on or real quick, we would take an English class down into that old swimming pool, close the thing, turn off the lights. We would have a German class come down and stomp on it, and talk German, and then it wouldn't be more than a minute, but you'd ask some of those kids that are afraid of the dark, they would say they've been down there for 15 minutes. But this teacher was trying to teach is the fear that a lot of the Jewish community went through during World War II when they were in isolation. And, you know, being the established tour guide, I'd open that up, there'd be kids coming up crying because they were so fearful of the dark. I said, we were only down there a minute. It wasn't on, it was 20 minutes. It was checkered watch. Oh, you can't tell time. You got a digital. Okay, so that's about the last time it was used. When they just tore down the old administration building, they filled it with bricks and mortar and whatever else, plus they poured thousands and thousands of yards of concrete to shore up the support for that side of the building. And so all your autographs that you signed down there for years are still there. They're a little bit tough to get to. Just remember this, in about 200-300 years, if something happens, a huge earthquake, and we have people going down searching, and all of a sudden they come across a swimming pool with all these names, it's going to confuse the stuffings out of those people. But there again, that's another wonderful part of our history. Yes? Okay, well, I would just as soon defer that. That's going to come up in my principal's welcome. And it's a very interesting story. And I don't want to take any of his thunder. I didn't want him to take any of mine. Yes? Oh, great question. Did they preserve any of the furniture in Henry Hart's office? We have several pieces that survived the fire. The original roll top is still honored in the principal's office. We have I don't know what you put a statue on it. It's an oak thing. Thank you. Pedestal. I've never been on one, so it's oak. It survived. And to me, the most beautiful survivors are the captain's chairs, those round ones with a leather in it. 4 of those survived. A hall tree, hat type of thing survived. And so, yeah, any of the things that were in Henry Hart's office when those that are open are still there. I think most of the question was, do we still have any of the desks with the inkwells? Thank God, no. even when I was teaching, they were a pain, you know, because you get an irritating kid sitting behind a girl with long hair. It wasn't bad for me, bad crew cut. But those mostly went by the wayside. People that wanted to have something on their front porch as a souvenir during the auction period for Lewis and Clark back in the 80s, and whatever other leftovers of those desks, I don't know what happened to. But most of them were sold at the auction when they remodeled with the beautiful plastic furniture of the 80s. Well, that was it.
Where are Mr. Parker's white shoes?
This one, I'll have to tell you the truth. I don't know. The question was, where are Mr. Parker's white shoes? I didn't even know about white shoes. So, you notice I didn't lie on that one. And I don't have a good answer. Don't know. When did they quit having dances down in the old swimming pool? I would guess 1965 when the new field house opened. And that was a nightmare, trying to have kids do sock hops, especially when they don't like wearing socks, because the basketball coach would go nuts if you wore shoes on a basketball floor. So, and to be truthful, there's not a lot of school dances anymore because of the problems. They still have the senior prom, no more junior prom. So, a lot of those, when they talk about the good old days, we went through a lot of them. All the social club dances, all the ASB dances and stuff. When I was sharing some of this with my principal, I told him we drove all the way up to Graf Gunder's barn for the pea pickers until somebody burned it down. But, you know, nobody thought about school liability. We'd go, you go to a hotel for a school dance. You go down to the Civics for a school dance. You go to Shadle Slack for a school dance. You can't do that now because if it's school and something happens, they can sue you. Everybody wants to sue somebody for something. Face the fact, we don't have a lot of money, especially after remodeling this. Other questions? I saw another one over here. Yes? No. There are no, they quit. I don't know the exact date. The question was, there's still social clubs. I shared this with my principal the other day. I said, the social clubs, I think some people thought that they were a nuisance. A lot of people thought they were a real positive thing for the school. I happen to be one of those that thought they were very positive from the standpoint. There always was discrimination, number-wise, and there was discrimination sometimes racially and so on. Yet they gave so many other things. But when we had a law passed that, and I think it was a good law at the time, called an equal access law. We got so much hate mail to our minority community, especially at holiday times. You know, the Jewish community would get all kinds of death threats. A lot of my students and athletes would get these just vulgar letters, and they wanted to rent our auditorium to share their message. And so you can't discriminate. If you're a certain church and you let them come in, you can't keep the Aryan nations out. So we decided that, not we, I didn't vote in it, but they decided that to protect everyone, private clubs, you know, if it wasn't a school-sponsored, chartered club, they could not meet here. And that really took away a lot of time and sponsorship, and so those kind of went away on their own, which to me is too bad. So those were some of the most fun dances I ever went to. Plus you got to use mom and dad's car and they paid the gas. Other questions? Unfortunately, there was a time, the Thai girls' name, just like Boys Federation, Girls Federation, and so on, because of equity, you could not have a sexist statement, which, you know, when historically, Virginia Nagy is going to be here today, one of the greatest things that ever happened to Lewis and Clark, great teacher, great person, and she did more for Lewis and Clark than people have ever known. But Thai girls are now the drill team. The Boys Federation, Girls Federation are a moment of silence. They're gone. The ASB is still the ASB because it didn't denote any sexual connotation, and so on. So we went through that issue and had to throw away a lot of stationery before recycling. Is the music people still around? If you would like to get ready, I've just about worn these people out because they got to sit and listen for another video. I'll take one more question if I can answer it. Yes. You know, that is a great question. The question is, who's the most famous alumni to come out of Lewis and Clark? That is a terrifying answer trying to answer because I've done all these reunions. I just went to a couple of years ago, a 50th reunion, and they had 7 guys and 2 gals that stood up that were doctors, and not a medical doctor, but physicists, chemists that have all been recognized by the president throughout different presidents and NASA. And I couldn't even recognize what in the world their job title was. I guess the best way to describe it, you go on the internet, lc.com, take a look at LC's famous alums, and we've got so many of them that I know we've missed some. So I'm not trying to be politically correct, but Lewis and Clark's been blessed with so many. To pick one would be, to me, an insult to the rest, because Lewis and Clark alums have accomplished so much and given so much back, not only to the city, to the state, but to the nation. And so, if I were to pick the most famous alum, as far as I'm concerned, because that influence on my life was Bill Anderson.
Anytime. One more question. Where? 1990, or he's 93 years old. What year did you graduate? 36. Peggy Herbert's father.
Elizabeth Gilbert, Betty Gilbert, Finley, 102, will be 103 in about 2 weeks. Lovely Betty.
Is she here? That's what the question is. Not that place to. She lives in Carmel, California. He's the oldest one here. Finally got somebody this older than me. All right, thank you for listening to my dissertation. We'll have time for probably about 15, 20 more minutes. 2 songs, he says. They'd rather listen to you, and so would I. Thank you. DVDs in your books, buy them. We don't want to store them.
Mm-hmm.